So here we have Elite Dangerous. We're now at Premium Beta 1. It's a game I've wanted to come back to from a very long time. So here we see, just coming up out of the into the space station, this big internal cylindrical volume is an amazing size, and gravity is a fantastic thing. So this is slowly rotated to give artificial gravity of about 0.1 gravity. So that's a bit like gravity on the moon. Gravity is a wonderful thing. It enables us to do everything from eat to walk around to go to the toilet quite easily. If you didn't have gravity, things float around in a very dangerous way. If someone sneezes, the sneeze stays in the air for a long time. And for when you're landing a spaceship or moving cargo, the cargo stays put if you put it down on the ground. But at 0.1 G, a normal human can lift a ton. So it's the best of both worlds. So that's why the space stations have been designed this way. Here you see the outside of a station. You see all the effect of the lights and the sort of the docking bay. You see that strange wire frame cage sticking out from Dahan Gateway. That's actually proves really good when you're aligning yourself. But also, we're planning to ramp up. It's not as strong yet. We're tuning it through the alpha and also the beta now, to make docking slightly easier. So the idea is there's an electromagnetic field that just helps your ship conform with the docking bay. But having said that, it's very interesting. We've noticed we're getting more and more cocky with small ships. This is an Eagle, one of the ships that was new to Alpha 4 and is also in the Premium Beta 1. But it's actually a lot smaller than the docking bay, so actually you can do loop-the-loops as you go out virtually. And it's watching Adam here, who's flying, being very cocky, is very entertaining. So now we're out of the station. If we go and look at the galaxy map, you can see the galaxy in the background there, and we see the 200 cubic light years that you've already got in the Premium Beta now, and 5 systems, 10 stars as you look around. We're looking at Dahan, which is where we are now. If we just zoom out a little, you'll see some of the stars in the surrounding area. If you just pause there, you can see these are all visitable systems. The white circle is where we're currently restricted the Premium Beta, because we want to keep all the players together as we sort of gradually improve the scale of the game. We zoom out some more, you see some of the larger stars, and you start to see the shape of the galaxy. You can see all of the dust that we've had to add to get the night sky to look right, but also it shows it's concentrated strongly in the galactic plane. And we'll see in a bit what that means to get our night sky to match. We've typed in some 150,000 star systems around Earth that are all real. So if we now zoom into Sol, for example, we've got a search function now, so you can find any system, including those who've got systems named after them that they've already done from the Kickstarter. But if we look at the night sky around Sol, you can see one of the pull downs is an option to turn on the constellations, which we've got here. So you see here the plough shape over there. If we now move our viewpoint slightly, you can see it change shape, see it distort. All the constellations gradually distort until they're completely unrecognizable. All you need to do for some of them is travel maybe 10 or so light years, and it's changed beyond recognition. And in fact, there's a website to do with people who've been playing on the Premium Beta and on the Alpha, showing constellations they've named in the new systems, one of which looks like a teacup. So it does. Once someone said it, you think, oh, actually, yeah, I suppose it does. And the great thing here is just seeing how much of it is centered around the sun. Now, the sun is virtually on the galactic plane, and that's where all the dust is. Some of the systems, you'll see a sneak peek, they're outside the galactic plane, so we come up out of this dust. So the galaxy is so much brighter, so much more vivid, and it's like in an aeroplane when you climb up out of the cloud layer. Suddenly you can see across to the galactic center, and it's just so much brighter. Okay, so if we travel to one of the other systems, let's choose Erenin. So this is an agricultural system. So let's travel there, but it's also independent, and we happen to know that it's an area where there's some conflict. There is some pressure for Erenin to become a federal system. So the Federation is trying to get them to go over. So there's lots of areas of constant conflict around here. Now, as a player, we can sign up as a mercenary to either side, for which you get money. And the great thing there is you can determine ultimately who wins these conflicts. So it may well be people, sometimes there'll be uprisings where people are being oppressed. Let's say they're mining ore and it's keeping the price of ore down. But you could side with the oppressors, because actually you like the spaceships being cheap, because cheap ore means cheap metal, which means cheaper spaceships. So, but obviously, I think the honourable thing to do would be to side with the oppressed. You know, to run guns to the rebels past the blockade. And what will happen is whichever side wins will be the side that where most players side. So you can actually determine who wins such a conflict. Here we are. You can see the system we've just selected on the night sky. Now every one of those dots is a real system you can visit. You see the one we selected, already highlighted, and we're heading towards it at full speed. And you'll see as the drive charges up, we're slowly getting ready to. You see the effect starting now, and now we're entering hyperspace. Here we go. If we gently look around, we see all of the. This is the effect as you travel from system to system. So here we are, we arrive. Suddenly your ship cools down as you arrive, just one of the effects, and there we see the star Erenin glowing in the background. Now we're still in Super Cruise, this is a mode where we're already travelling at about an eighth of the speed of light. What we're doing now is selecting the conflict zone, which is where there's this battle between the Federation and the local independents, the rebels that are trying to keep the system independent. The great thing with these conflicts is, you can just choose to side with one side or the other side, and the end result of that will determine the outcome, depending on how many players side with each side. Let's say it's the rebel uprising is that the oppressors are, let's say they're mining some ore. Ore means cheap metal and therefore cheap spaceships, so it may well be that a lot of the players side with the oppressor to keep the price of the ships down. So we can sign up to either side here as a mercenary and earn money from it, and that's how we will determine this over time. So we see here on our HUD, these orange lines are the orbit lines of the systems. All the planets and stars orbit continuously in real time. There have even been people uploading, the alpha and beta backers, uploading video onto YouTube of stop motion showing all of the moons and planets moving. Oops, overshot there a bit. So you can see the moon that this conflict zone is in orbit above. This is an area where we have this concept of a combat bond, where either side can request help for you for money, and that's what we're doing here. So we've got to be within about 1,000 kilometers to to disengage from Super Cruise. So when you're super cruising around a system, you sort of see all the bodies move relatively. You're travelling at huge speeds, and you can sort of drop out of this. It's sort of soft hyperspace, if you like. We're still in early sort of premium beta, if you like. There are a lot of more effects that we're gradually going to be layering in. We'll be able to show the magnetic fields of planets, so you actually see them much bigger from a further distance, just whilst you're super cruising. And the more super cruising you are, because what we're actually doing is shrinking space to make that possible. So here we've joined the combat, we've chosen our side, and you see that the people on your side who've signed up on the same side are shown in green, and those who are on the opposite side are shown in red, who are actually some of them attacking you. You see them flashing white on your scanner. Those are the people who are currently firing at you. So there we go, using some missiles to help take them out. The best thing to do is to use your lasers. We've got a pair of gimbaled lasers here. That means there's a slight toe-in. Gimbaled lasers, you can fit a smaller gimbaled laser than a fixed laser, but actually it ends up being more effective to have a gimbaled laser because you can hit them more often. We see the information on the left with the ship we've targeted. This one's a Cobra. We see its hull is at 88%, and he's now trying to get out of our gun sights. But I think we're going to nail him. We're in an Eagle, which is a combat-leaning ship, whereas a Cobra is a fairly general-purpose ship. Now, you may have seen his main thrusters flare red there. What he did there is he did, a thruster, sort of essentially an afterburn, where you overdrive engines to thrust more out of this. You can also put more power to different parts of your ship. You see, we've got a bit more power put into weapons, and our engines and systems are slightly reduced to do the attack. But what we will find, once our shields start dropping, we will switch more power into the systems to balance that out. I mean, all of these things, you know, the complexity of it, I mean, to be honest, we're gamers and we're writing this game for ourselves. We want this level of complexity. But you don't have to do it if you don't want to. You know, when we first play this, and actually this is true of the AIs as well, the base level AI doesn't do anything clever like this. We wanted the base level AI to be a bit stupid and to try and run away as its first line of defense. And then the more sophisticated AIs, that you see some of these in combat zones like this, are use the afterburn, all this sort of thing, in concert with the other features. Oops, oh dear, that's not good. That's the downside of signing up for these mercenary missions. Now, what I suggest we do now is have a sneak peek of some of the things that are coming in builds over the next weeks and months. Okay, so here we have our sneak peek of an Orbis space station. So this is a much bigger, much more expensive station that people won't have seen before. This is coming in the next build that we'll put out. It's, as you see, the Coriolis is much more like the central, not much bigger than the central part of this station. There's this huge area rotating for 1G around it, this huge sort of steering wheel, if you like, going around the central docking bay. And actually there's a secondary, on this particular station, there's a secondary wheel which is set at half a G, because that may well be a lot more comfortable for people. There's already a suggestion that it's actually much easier on the heart, for example. So if you're an old person, you will live longer if you live in lower gravity. So we're playing around with that sort of thing. Also, the stations will change depending on the system that it's orbiting. We see here that we've got a white star and we've got the sort of actinic white light with sort of whitey blue. But also you see there are big storage boxes on the back of the station, you know, so in an agricultural world, if grain needs to be stored between harvests, that's the sort of place it would be stored and, you know, ready for the ships to take away. Now we're in a Lakon Type 9, which some of you may see. This is a trading leaning ship, so it's lightweight hull, not too many hard points, but it's absolutely huge. It's got a cavernous cargo bay. You see into the ship here. The cockpit itself is multi-story as well. It's got two other seats further down. We can just sort of see the edges of them here. It's a giant cockpit. It's a bit like a crane cab stuck on the front of a big box. You know, it's not the most elegant of ships, but it's great for trading. And speaking of which, we see the docking slot below of this new station. This is a system that is some 100 light years away from the systems we've been showing in Premium Beta 1. And if you look at the galaxy in the background, if we sort of spin around to see that, you'll see the night sky is quite different. We're sort of now a lot more out of the dust. It's a lot more vivid. We can see some of the background information more, but you see here as we come up to the galactic centre, and you can see to the right spreading underneath us now. You see the Earth-like world that the station's in orbit around and the distant moon behind it. But also you see the galaxy, the wispiness of the galaxy below us and in the distance. And we can also see to the galactic centre across these clouds. Now we're out of them, when it's very much brighter than it was before, and actually way much brighter than night sky. Now this system, 17 Draconis, is a real system, and it should really look like that. And yes, every dot in that night sky is also going to be correct. Okay, here, so we're going to try and dock this Lakon Type 9, which is a big bus of a ship, into the slot. Now what's interesting with these larger ships is they are a much tighter fit and actually harder to dock. We will be introducing things like docking computers over time. But actually there is something really great about the sort of the skill-based element of docking. You do get quite good at it, and you see the framework sticking out here, again as with the other system, will help align the ship. The idea is there's an electromagnetic field coming from those that will just help avoid you crashing. So here we're docking with Paradiso Outpost in the 17 Draconis system. This is an early look at this station, so you will see a few LOD issues which we'll sort out. There you go, didn't see that. Or that. But there we go, beautifully done, not a scratch. And there we can see our docking bay ahead of us. Now, we're also going to change these, so if a high-class system, if you look around here, this is all very grey, what you'd expect from a sort of practical federal system. But there will be ones with tree-lined avenues here and bright lights, so it will look truly beautiful. You know, the sort of thing you might get in, I don't know, a sort of Apple Centre, sort of white, where everything's clean and beautiful. The nice thing I like about the Lakon is you can look down through between your legs, and also notice now the controls move, although we don't want to move them too much, otherwise we'll crash. There we are, we've got to line the dot up with the centre of the, there we go, and then just gradually bring it in. Okay, so that ends up our sneak peek at Elite Dangerous, things coming over the next few weeks and months. This is our E3 build. The content of this, though, will be in the next build we release to the Premium Beta and Alpha backers. The game is slated for the end of this calendar year for full commercial release, but of course there will be lots of releases to the beta backers and between now and release. So thank you for listening.